he was looking for ways to stay in power. And when people told him things that conflicted with him staying in power, he rejected them.
I thought that he needed to include a call to action and to tell these people to go home. And a debate ensued. So I motioned up at the TV and I said, do you think it looks like we're effing winning? Because I don't think it does.
Prosecutor Jack Smith testifying under oath in public for the first time today and referring to a lot of the corroboration they had. Some of those witnesses spoke to his prosecutors and investigators in private. Others we know from the public Jan 6 hearings, including Sarah Matthews, who you saw there discussing what were, at the time, heated internal debates over how to respond to the unfolding violent sedition of Trump fans at the Capitol. Sarah Matthews joins us now. She was deputy press secretary in the Trump White House. She resigned on January 6th and works now at Home of the Brave, an advocacy group that deals in so many of these democracy issues. Welcome back. Your view of the import of what Jack Smith said today, and did he strike you as fair and accurate?
Yeah, I think that obviously it was ridiculous for the Republicans to call him for this hearing because they did so to try to please Donald Trump. Obviously, Jack Smith is a big target of his, and Trump is still living in the past and to this day talks about how he won the 2020 election. But I do think that it was a good thing for the general public to see Jack Smith in this setting, answering these questions and sticking to the facts, because Trump today was posting about how Jack Smith was a deranged animal. And obviously, if you watched the hearing or caught any of the clips, you saw that it was anything but that he is a noble public servant who is just doing his job.
Understood. The criminal requirements that Smith had to prove were higher than the general public or Congress might want. So, for example, a politician who lies about the result or interferes in a non-criminal way, most people think that's bad, but it might not be a crime. Smith had to go to what people remember from Law and Order, criminal intent. And I want to play some of what he said about election lies today, including what you testified about.
Our investigation revealed that Donald Trump was not looking for honest answers about whether there was fraud in the election. He, in fact, knew that the fraud claims he was making were false.
I was struck by the fact that he chose to begin the video by pushing the lie that there was a stolen election. His refusal to act and call off the mob that day and his refusal to condemn the violence was indefensible.
Smith says they had the evidence that Trump was knowingly trying to steal an election that he knew he lost. Does that match with your experience when you were in the White House?
Yeah, we knew that at the time that I knew on election night that Donald Trump lost. Let me be clear about that. And I think that there were others in the White House who also believed that, but they were trying to keep him happy. And so they started telling him what he wanted to hear. And then that's when you started getting these crazy conspiracy theories that started coming out of the president's mouth about how the voting machines had been rigged and that he needed 11,000 votes in Georgia and was trying to put pressure on the Secretary of State there to find the votes.
And let me pinpoint that, because so many Republicans were asking questions about this today. Was it based on what you saw and lived, was it your best understanding that Trump was just completely confused, or that he viewed those as efforts to do propaganda to get to the result regardless of the truth?
I think that Trump knew that he lost, and he had been told by multiple advisors, both in the White House, on the campaign, state officials, that he lost, and that this was a propaganda effort by his part to try to find these votes, for example, in Georgia, or spreading these conspiracy theories about Dominion voting machines. I think that he knew that he lost, but he was willing to cling to anything and any excuse in order to try to stay in power.
And finally, you testified, we've shown that Cassidy Hutchinson was a key witness. She testified about things she saw up close from being, of course, an aide to the #1 person in the White House staff, the chief of staff. She also talked about things that others told her. And I'm curious what you thought of all of that exchange and the attacks on her today, given that you know her and worked in the same White House.
Yeah, I think that any attack on Cassidy Hutchinson is pathetic because I know her to be someone of good character, and she is extremely brave for coming forward with what she knew and testifying before the January 6th committee. She faced death threats as a result and had to go into hiding. And so I think that it's really rich for a lot of these members of Congress to sit there and attack her when there is no basis in their attacks against her. And I think that they are saying what they need to say in order to stay in power and to please Donald Trump. But Cassidy told the truth at a great cost. And I think that those who are sitting in those positions of power, who are 2-3 times her age, they should really look at themselves in the mirror and consider what they're doing and how they go to sleep at night. Because honestly, I don't know how they do it. They know that Donald Trump lost a free and fair election and that he tried to overthrow it as a result and caused a violent insurrection. And he is the first president in U.S. history to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power as a result. And so for them to attack Cassidy is just BS, honestly. And it's really frustrating because there is one person to blame for January 6th, and it is Donald J. Trump.